Chapter 6, Safety. Section 1, Accident causes safety and measures. 6.1, General signal causes accidents of military installation trackage, insufficient clearance of the moving railroad cars and personnel. In many cases, minimum clearance limits are violated in building additions, stacked materials, parked vehicles, and protruding piping or wiring are attached to the platforms, walls, and other prominent accident causes are unsafe equipment, unstable loads, and tripping hazards, lack of equipment, lack of wiring devices, restricted visibility, unauthorized crossing, just plain carelessness is another cause of accidents around the tracks of railroad cars. Hazards shall be classified in the degree of required military standard 822 by A. System Safety Program requirements as described in paragraph 78.1, 78.3.4, 6.2. Fixed structures. The fixed structures impair the safe clearance is listed below the general order of the prevailing hazards. 6.221. The platforms floors evaluated on a platform excess of 3 feet 9 inches in height must a minimum of 6 feet and inches in the center of the track. The clearance is often lost in several reasons. Old or wooden platforms may sag and lean toward the track. Timbers may become loose or bend outward of the platform, strengthening the platform's timber not be scabbled over the overlapping of existing of the timbers have deteriorated and become weakened and structure examined and extended for the platform track-wise. Reduction of 6 foot 2 inches clearance and even in several inches can result in injury. Riding and trained man, if the obstruction protrudes in far enough for the could strike and damage stirrups and grab irons of the cars. Retaining walls must have always minimum clearance of 8 and 5 feet 6 inches. Figures in 6.1 minimum clearance may be lost in the wall creeping of the bulging or from pressures or other sides. 6.2.3 pipe wires. Utility services should not be attached to existing platforms, buildings. Retaining walls having proper clearances in the pipes. Cables, wiring affixed as brackets and fasteners and protruded in the surfaces to which they are attached to reduce the clearance, sometimes unacceptable. 6.2.4 building additions to existing buildings should not encroach the minimum clearance of 8 feet 6 inches, or windows of shutters and doors that are swinging outward should not be insulated. The latter particularly dangerous because they are often not noticed and may be obtained by the train and is passing by. It is important that structural plans, well as the plans for installing outside piping, wiring, approved for the assure of the hazards are not created. Window type of the air conditioning should not be installed by buildings within the clearance zone. They are often protruded significant into the area involved in canopies and overhanging elements and must be high enough to clear the locomotive's cars. 6.2.5 gates and main installation trackage may pass for boundary perimeter and other security fences. Gates should be securely fastened in open position to prevent the swinging toward the moving of the train, striking locomotive or cars or riding train man. 6.2.6 overhead structures. Pipe trestles, bridges, elevator bins, chutes, and overhead structures must meet the clearance critical. Figure 6.1. Equipment unused and unloaded cars must be raised to save a clearance prior to train movement. Suitable device must be installed to keep the equipment in a raised position. Safe clearance not in use. 6.3. Safe clearance limits. Parked vehicle areas adjacent to the railroad track, military installation are sometimes used in vehicle parking. Suitable bumpers and guardrails are installed to prevent personnel parking in vehicles, including inside, and safe clearance limits of loading areas. Head trucks, forklifts, and other materials. Hand equipment must not be left careless at less than half safe distance from the track. The trucks are often loaded and directly into the unloaded directly on the railroad cars. They must be. Here's the overhead wires. This is a minimum safe clearance. You have your 5 feet, your 5.5, 6 inches. It shows the railroad bridges. Anyways, moved at least 8 feet of the center of the track. Before moving to the railroad cars, trucks, and loading docks or restricted areas must be parked neither the tractor or trailer approaches than safe clearance limits. 6.3 stored materials. Materials are often stored at the railroad tracks. Palleted, stacked materials must be clear. Area must not less than 8 feet from the track center. Loose materials such as sand, gravel, or coal and must be stored in bins at least barricaded On trackward side, coals and cables must be placed on blocks so that they cannot roll toward the track. Drums must be placed and stacked and that they will not tumble or roll toward the track. The 8-foot clearance of the criterion applies for the short, long-term stored materials. Flammable explosive materials must be stored at clearances specifically. Activity safety engineer, fire marshal, and ordnance officer. 6.3 the curves the clearance should figure in 6.1 may have increased the area switches curves the sharpness of the curve overhanging the longest cars but brought through the installation determining increased clearance required clearances tangent new track and new construction clearance of the reconstruction work and alliteration depending on the existing physical conditions when possible should be improved to meet the requirements of the new construction curved track. Lateral clearances shall be increased 1 inch per degree of the curvature and maximum increase of 18 inches which when fixed in obstruction of the tangent track, the track is covered in 80 feet of the obstruction. Lateral clearances shall be increased as follows: the distance from the obstruction to the curved track feet is 0 to 20. It increases per degree in curvature 21 feet to 40, 3 1/4, 41 and 6, 61 and a half inches, 61 to 80, 1 1/4 inch. Other obstacles or hazards, track conditions such as broken rails, broken rail joints, rotten ties, loose spikes, maladjusted switches can cause derailments. Procedure procuring the conditions are outlined in Chapter 3 and 4. Drainage, lack of adequate drainage can cause softening of the roadbed. This can lead to the track settlement, which is in turn can result in the broken rail joints, loose spike shoulders. Erosion creates hazardous footing which may result in missteps. Failing procedures of correcting drainage deficiency are outlined in Chapter 4, 3, in Section 3, Chapter 5, and Section 2. Housing tools and track hardware, ties, rails, slippage and hopper cars, coal, gravel, and etc. Trash it refuses to left along the track are serious hazards. Excavation of open trenches, the hazard evacuated earth and stone from the trenches left to the shoulders. Inadequate distance of track and add to the danger. Trenches must be marked and covered in planks, gratings, and when the work is not to be done, excavating must also be adequately showed to prevent the collapsing, shifting, settling of the roadbed. Permanent pits, trenches, other openings under the around track when flush fitting, gratings and covers which when they are kept in place at all times when not in use. Accessory devices, accessories such as lamps, derailleurs must be kept in a good working condition. Lamps and lights must be lit during the periods of low visibility. Cross signals and gates, stand and interlocking devices must be maintained serviceable condition to prevent accidents. Bumpers, wheel chokes must be maintained in operable condition. Online only experienced personnel shall be involved in the use of derailleurs. 6476 safety operation in which is moved and accomplished safety in mind. Maintenance personnel must be daily clear of being pulled and coupled and uncoupled or derailed to minimize the potential accidents. Only authorized personnel will ride cars. Blind corners caused by buildings, walls, and etc. must be protected by railing barricades. Personnel must be given standing and clear berth. Must be weight of the pacing train of the most sufficient distance to enable to observe the adjacent track of the train movements before the proceeding across the track. Temporarily non-standardable road crossings shall be properly posted. Figure 6.2 example of the good housing and safety practices. This right here is a good housing safety practice. Section 2, Safety Precautions. 6.5, the procedures in addition to the guidance concerning hazards given in foreign paragraphs. The following procedures must be carried out to assure the maximum safety of railroad operations. Maintenance inspection. The safety inspection shall be made as indirect an installation of a safety engineer, but not less than one annually. In conduction of maintenance inspection as outlined in Chapter 7. Safety inspection checklist. The following checklist is safety inspectors as in a copy of the report of the furnished installation of the safety engineering installation of the office responsible for maintenance of maintenance of trackage. Chapter 1. 652.1 clearance measured in the center line of the track always fixed to the structure. Clearance not meeting the criteria of the figure 6.1 it must be reported. 6.5.2.2 2.2 opening all structures with doors, windows, etc. Opening into the clearance limits, fixtures, pipelines, other utilities erected, installed inside the clearance limits. Missing inoperative warning devices, signs, conditions off of obstruction of the sign, gates, and not securely held open, unsafe condition of the track, shoulders, track bed, erosion, open ditches, trenches, broken loose, missing gratings, coverings, improperly working switches into the railers, loose, improper marking of clearance and points. 65.2.8 improper use of wheel chocks, unsafe carsation without step brakes, wheel chocks on grades, loose checks of the bumpers, conditioning of cattle guards, condition of the crane chutes and loading unloading device that mighty effect of the safety clearance that applies the overhead structures. 65210 in parking areas of the trucks other than equipment encroaching the clearance limits, materials stored in an inadequate distance of the track, projecting the clearance limits of the storage areas and unloading or loading docks, condition of rail joints and ties that may create hazards. 65213 there are no missing, loose, broken components, bad welds, accumulation of debris, heavy corrosion, severe deterioration following the trackage, appurtenancy, ladders and platforms, handrails, rail stops, guardrails, fences, crossing signs or warning signs or other features that could cause accidents. 6.6 and maintenance inspector track crews. Maintenance inspector track crews are responsible for reporting obstructions of hazards along the tracks of trash, loads, hardware, any of the other substance full of safe clearance limits. Maintenance personnel shall remove the clearance up to obstacles as they go along. More detailed responsible as they are personnel as they are provided in Chapter 7. Section 3 safety warnings and signs. Installing warning signs when a hazard exists in the inadequate clearance of construction, blind car owners approaching proximity, flammable explosive charges, heavy vehicle, pedestrian traffic crossings, or any other condition situation of the jeopardize people and property. Appropriate warning signs and signals that they should be posted and installed. Signs must be clearly visible, maintained in all legible condition. Signs will be maintained to be operable at all times. Signs must be fixed, installed in proper clearance and track and portable temporary signs or standard blue signs, metal flags, unless others are prescribed. Signs shall be removed with no longer required. Typical signs: stop, derail, stop, tank, connecting, danger to men working. 6.8 in clearance and marking and crossing turnouts and ladders, tracks. Clearance markers are painted with the rails adjacent to the tracks. Minimum clearance is reduced. The chrome yellow paint shall be used. The markers shall be within 12 inches long, painted on both sides of each rail clearance point. Figure 364 or 331.13 shows a typical clearance marker is paved areas of 12 by 24 inch yellow markers shall be painted between the tracks of the clearance points. Whistles or ringing bell signs. The signs usually shop and fabricated while whistling ring sizes of distances crossing specified applicable states municipal requirements when no such requirements exist in the area standards. This is a whistle sign. Then we move on to Chapter 7.